Book Club Shmook Club is brought to you by Talk Bomb. It's a book review show where I, Kristen Rogers Anderson, and my brother, Will Rogers, talk about a different book every other week. For more information, like our full archive of shows and our calendar of upcoming books, go to talkbomb.com/schmook. SHMOOK. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram under the usernames @ChillinKristen and @HauntedSponge. Book Club Shmook Club is available on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome to Book Club Shmook Club. I'm Kristen.
I'm William.
We're back.
We're back.
How are you guys? We're back from summer vacation.
How was your summer break?
What'd you do? Who'd you kiss at camp?
You go to the beach? Ooh. What you been up to?
Bury your toesies in the sand?
Yeah. I got dragged into the sewers by a clown.
Me too. It was a drag. Well, yeah.
Well, it kind of was.
It's junk.
Kind of was a drag. We're here to review Stephen King's It.
Yep.
Legitimately.
It was the pits.
Was it?
Yeah.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
We all know Pennywise sucks blood out of kids' armpits. Is that what you mean? That's a very weird specific detail in the book.
No, it's funny. So, we'll get into it, but my friend Sarah and I watched the movie together, this past weekend. And so we were talking all things It, basically. And I told her that that's such a little part and so specific, but it freaks me out.
It's weird.
But it's like such a soft and like not often touched part of your body. The idea of something ripping through that.
Well, it's also weird that like, I don't know. I guess I had, I don't know, confused ideas about what Pennywise the Clown even was. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was a scary clown. I knew that he was supernatural.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me that he's like sucking blood. Like I don't think I anticipated that.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna let go, but I didn't know that he sucked blood specifically. I thought he was just kind of like ripping, tearing, eating stuff. Do they say he like sucks or drinks blood?
Interesting. I mean, they say that like a character gets murdered.
Yeah.
No spoilers yet. We're going to do spoiler free to start, but like a character gets murdered and somebody who kind of sort of witnesses it says that like they came around a corner and saw their friend on the ground and a clown like bent over, like sucking on the person's armpit, basically. So I took from that a very sort of like vampiric, literally like Dracula drinking your blood, but the way that he did it was through the armpit, which made me think, and I didn't research this or anything, that there must be an artery there.
Out of his armpit.
Maybe. I guess that's weird. There's a lot of arm stuff, though. It's very arm-centric, the way that his attacks happen.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, why don't we...
That's weird.
I know. It's very strange.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what Pennywise is. I have a lot of thoughts
I don't know either.
about it, and a lot of horror references from other places.
Fantastic. I was starting to research that.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing I was researching, and then I was like, you know what? That's got William stamped all over it. He's going to do that. Why double up the work?
Fair enough.
Yep. And then I was like, oh, yeah. No, I know. You know what I mean? So I did.
I also knew that.
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah.
I knew that.
So I stopped.
Well, why don't we do what we always do on the show and start out with our history.
Okay.
With Stephen King's It. Kristen, tell me everything that ever happened to you prior to the past month.
Okay.
With this book.
Okay. So I have been afraid of clowns for like ever, basically. And I knew it was about a clown, didn't ever want to read it, didn't want anything to do with it. I was aware of it because it's so zeitgeisty and popular, and I was like, no, thank you. And then you suggested it for the show. And
like many times.
Well, yeah.
We've been dancing with Pennywise these past 3-4 years, whatever it's actually been. I've been talking about it like since the beginning.
Yeah, true. And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then because we're taking a month break and it is so long and it was like, okay, so it's kind of a good opportunity to read it because we have all this time off. Plus the movie is coming out in September. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. In the last, I don't know, couple of years, I'd been doing very light amateur exposure therapy for myself. Cause I would knee jerk. I'll explain. I've said it on the show before. So it's never been a phobia that I have of clowns.
Yeah.
A very, very, very strong revulsion, I would say. or repulsion. Like, it's like, ah.
Yeah, but what is fear? Like, that sounds to me like it would be a phobia, right? Like, what?
I think a phobia is deeper than that. Like, I don't know.
If it's like a guttural instinct, like, oh, I cannot look at that.
It's almost like, or it has been almost like, looking at something extremely gory that you don't want to see. That's like disgusting to you or something and creepy. It was kind of like that.
Okay.
So anyway, I've been lately is so dumb. So like if there was anything with clowns in it, like movies, anything like that, I would not look at the clown or just like turn away or whatever. And if I was with like a group of people watching something and I want to like make a big deal out of it, I would just like look like a little to the left of the TV. And I was like,
that's kind of sad and weird. I feel like I would notice.
I mean,
that.
I think more when I was younger. I don't
like you're playing like a perspective game, right? Like in movies when like in a horror movie they want to make it look like someone's stabbing someone else. So they're like, if I wanted to stab you, I would stab you like behind your back.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of looks like I'm doing it, but I'm obviously not. If I were sitting there,
to pinch your head.
Yeah, you're pinching my head, right? But like if I were sitting there looking off to the side from the TV, I feel like you would notice it.
Well, I'd be looking head on, but I'd just be like, wow, it's beautiful. Like, what is that in Friends where Joey doesn't want to look at something? Oh,
wow. Yeah, he's like, I don't remember what it is.
I don't know. He's like looking away from me. He's like, oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be like that. I did that when we saw The Dark Knight in the beginning part, where it's like the more traditional clowns were robbing a bank or something.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this scene's intense.
So you're trying to make it extra convincing, be like, I'm enjoying this.
But anyway, so my personal exposure therapy was doing that a little bit less, giving a glance. I'd be like, ugh, and then look up.
Yeah.
And it was working pretty well. I still didn't like it, but whatever. I still don't like them. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we were going to read the book. I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. The fact that it's on the page is a little bit different than if I was watching, because it's a visual thing. It's not anything else for me, I don't think. But, and we listened to the audiobook, both of us, because this book is so long.
This book is just shy of 45 hours on Audible.
Ugh. And the Audible picture when you boot it up is of a clown. And so I kept seeing that over and over again. And I started to be like, I don't give a shit about this anymore. It's fine. I mean, when it first popped up, I was like, ah!
Yeah.
But I was a little bit like, ugh. And, I was like, I think I might be getting over this a little bit. And then also, not to be overly dramatic, but it just is true. Part of me was like, look, I've been through some like, our family have been through some like real life horror shit, like not horror movie, but like horrible things. I've faced down scary things in my life now. I'm sick of this. It's boring to me. I hate that this is a stupid thing for me. So
yeah, what am I supposed to do? Be afraid of Pennywise?
Well, he's pretty scary.
Is he? I don't find him that scary.
I found him pretty.
Aside from being a clown, like even the fact that he's a murderer monster thing, I don't find him very frightening.
The clowniness is.
It's just the clowniness if you don't like clowns.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was fine reading the book in that sense. There were other ways I wasn't fine.
Yeah.
But and then I decided to watch the movie.
Yeah.
So Sarah came over, we watched the movie. I definitely was kind of like, I caught myself being like, like I was like making a face when he was on, but also I knew it was Tim Curry, who I love.
Yeah.
So I was like looking in there, which I also think helped diffuse it a little bit.
Are you in there, Tim?
Oh, there you are, Peter. From Hook, when that little kid is mushing around Robin Williams' face trying to find Peter Pan in there.
Yeah.
So, and then he did the weirdest things in it. In it.
Made like really strange acting choices.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is my
hey, Georgie. And then he'd tell a joke, like,
it was so weird.
Bizarre.
And so good.
Yeah.
So that is my long history with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's yours?
I've been aware of it forever, but I never liked Stephen King. I didn't grow up reading Stephen King, watching Stephen King stuff. The only thing I knew was The Shining.
Yep.
But somewhere around being like 14, 15, 16, one of my friends and I rented it from Blockbuster on VHS. And, it was it was 2 VHS tapes.
Yeah.
To get it. And there was some screw up. Either we rented, cassette number 2, not realizing there were 2 and watched it. And then later I found out like, oh, I watched half a movie. Or we watched cassette 2 and then watched cassette 1, and I was like, oh, I feel ripped off because I watched these in reverse order. I screwed up. There was something like that, and for the rest of this time, for the second 15 years of my life, I've been like, nah, I screwed up. I didn't watch them in the right order.
It's done.
Or I only saw half of it. I don't even remember. I barely remembered it.
Yeah.
And I know that it was an iconic thing and whatever. But when we started doing this show, I was like, all right, well, this is the thing to do then. This is like a beloved, like iconic horror thing that I really have no familiarity with, which is kind of, it's not super rare. There are plenty of horror movies that I haven't seen, but it was all the more enticing because I knew that people loved it.
Right.
So that really is it. That's my history.
Yeah.
So for this, I listened to the audiobook and I watched the movie. And I am now hotly anticipating the new movie, which comes out in just over a month.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that then we should just jump right into it and get spoiler free and tell everybody what we thought.
I think I must have been sending you confusing text messages because I thought that the Tim Curry thing was a movie, a theatrical release.
Right.
And then I thought that somebody made, in addition to that, later, a 90s miniseries. Almost like how there was the Shining movie, and then there was the Shining miniseries starring Steve Weber. Steven Weber. My friend Steve Weber.
My understanding is that it was always a miniseries.
No, that's correct. But I was texting you about it, and I was like, well, there's this, there's that. How much material is there? Or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the book, I mean, you could make multiple iterations. I think one of the strangest choices they've made is to make it a movie. This feels to me, if you want to do this story, why is it not a miniseries?
Well, there's going to be a second movie. You know what I mean? So, like, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that based on, like, the running time, it's going to be much longer than the original miniseries, which is, like, 3 hours. It seems like with both movies, it's going to end up being something around 4.5 hours all told.
I mean, that kind of makes sense to me, honestly, with how much story there is here.
Yeah.
And they're 2 feature films, not even 2, like, TV movie things with commercials and everything.
True.
So that's not that crazy to me.
True. Although I do want to point out that we are entering into a brand new age where Stephen King...
Oh, I know. He's on top.
He is. He is becoming increasingly powerful.
Yeah.
Right now.
His strength is growing.
Literally this week, this Friday, the Dark Tower movie comes out.
It does? Wow, that's soon. Huh.
You and I read the first book of the Dark Tower. It's in the archive of our episodes. We did not like it.
Nope.
In that book, there is a creature that is said to be the same species as Pennywise. I've done my research on that.
I read about all those. That was the other thing. That's where I was like, there's something else. I read about all the connections in Stephen King world.
Yeah.
Started to write down. I was like, you know what?
It's a rabbit hole. It's like almost not worth doing because if you start
stuff about it,
yeah, I do. Okay. But like the second that you start being like, oh, I wonder. Okay, well then, what's the connection from Pennywise to the Dark Tower? Then it's like
to Pennywise to 11/22/63.
Yeah, because there is a connection.
I mean, I don't know that much about that book, but I was surprised
Stephen King's cinematic universe, basically. So that opens this Friday. This month begins filming of Castle Rock, a new anthology TV show by J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot, who did, Lost. They did the Star Trek reboots, the new Star Wars movie, Episode 7. And it is all contained in the town of Castle Rock, Maine, where a lot of Stephen King stories take place. And in the teaser, Pennywise. The name Pennywise is flashed across the screen.
Oh, okay.
It's just
just words.
Basically an animation. Yeah, it's just words. But so Pennywise is in that. I forgot to mention that in the Dark Tower opening on Friday, in one of the trailers, there's a big sign that says Pennywise. That's like in the ground. So Pennywise is in that in 1 month.
In the Dark Tower?
Mm-hmm. In 1 month, the new It movie opens. Just Pennywise, because Stephen King is exploding right now, which is strange to me. Strange that it's taken this long.
Yeah.
It seems like he always was.
In waves, you know what I mean? Because there was Misery and Dolores Claiborne came out not that far apart from each other.
Yeah.
And maybe even something else.
Maybe.
I think there was a period where there were a lot of I don't know if they were all thought to be really good, but I think there were a lot of Stephen King movies that came out around the same time. So maybe it's like he gets pops.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, in the era of cinematic universes, it makes total sense.
I mean, it's so weird because I don't like a lot of his writing and his books and things like that, but I do have like a weird affection for him and all this stuff. Like I'm going to consume all this.
I agree.
It's so strange. It's like I like it on the surface, and then when I really get in and read the books, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, well, he writes some like classic horror. He's a great inventor. My thing is whatever I end up saying for the rest of the episode, which is not going to be very positive.
Either.
I think he is great at inventing concepts and scenarios and not very good at executing them.
Yeah.
So like in this book, in it, the kids go to this, it's basically a haunted house. It's basically a derelict mansion. And they're creeping through it and they're afraid of things in there and scary stuff pops out at them.
Yeah.
And in many ways, that's derivative of zillions of horror stories. In many other ways, he does imbue it with a new sense of energy and momentum that I'm very excited to see on screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do feel that. Cause again, in this, like, I keep thinking about like, wow, why am I so annoyed by this book? I guess Stephen King sucks. And then I go, no, Stephen King does great things.
Yeah.
The Shining is one of my like favorite things that's ever existed.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite stories that's ever been told. In no matter how you tell it, it's a great story. So I don't exactly know how to, peg him.
Yeah.
But I'm so annoyed by him.
I know. It's so weird.
And so impressed by him.
I know. Yeah. I guess overall, I guess I would have to say I like him.
I guess I like him.
Again, I guess I like the headlines of Stephen King, and I don't love the articles.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I really think that if he were sitting behind the scenes going like, this is what this is going to be about, and then passes it off to somebody who isn't going to imbue it with like, rock and roll, everyone, and bizarre, like, sexual scenes, and, like, horrible, like, sick to the pit of your stomach racism and homophobia. And, like, not that he's writing them in a way that glorifies those things. He writes about them
I have weird
to
feelings
condemn
about
them,
that, though.
But they are so viscerally, like, repugnantly potent, especially in this book. Racism and homophobia.
I couldn't find anything about it. Like, I don't know. Like, I know so it is specific that he's writing those things. They're meant to portray villainy. Like the bad guys are the ones who are racist and homophobic and everything.
Yeah.
There's a certain, I don't know, like joy it feels like he takes in writing those. There's so much of them.
Yeah.
In so many different creative ways.
Well, especially in this book.
Well, that's why I'm talking about just this book. And you could say that that's him plumbing the depths of those horrors to upset you.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, something feels weird about it.
Well, it also feels weird that this is a very fantastical book. But he also gets very real with the horror, which I don't know, I think it's fine to blend those things. Like horror is frequently used as a metaphor for actual real world, like social ills. But it is weird to be like, we've got to run away from Pennywise, the dancing clown. And then just be like, I murdered him because he was gay.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a tonal shift that just like, it just punches you in the chest and takes all the wind out of the sails of it being a quote unquote, like fun, fascinating fantasy horror book. When you're literally like getting into the psyche of cops being like, well, listen, I don't like gay people either, but you can't go around, killing them, Mick. And you're like, what is going on? So everyone's racist.
Right.
But, and homophobic and like on the good side and on the bad. Like, I get it.
Pennywise is a little bit of an embodiment of all of these evils of man. Don't you get it?
Let's do this.
Okay.
We have to do this.
All right.
Let's give the spoiler-free review of it.
Okay.
Because the sooner that we get to the spoiler-filled review, the more I'll be able to say everything I'm thinking.
Let her rip.
But for now, if you've never read it before, if you've never seen the movie, we're going to give our full thoughts and whether or not we recommend it without actually spoiling the real events. We're going to talk about premise and premise alone.
Yes. Okay. So, it. Oh, also, if you haven't listened to this before, I just stream of consciousness this, you guys.
Yeah.
They're dumb sometimes.
No, they're great.
Okay. It is about the town of Derry, Maine, and the evil force that feeds on its children. A shape-shifting bad guy who often comes in the form of a clown called Pennywise, who lurks in the sewers of the town and moves through waters. But in 1957, it messes with the wrong group of kids who are ready to laugh in its face, not in the fun clown way, and sock it right in the make-up face with a big ball of cotton candy. And you know that sticks to everything.
No.
The so-called Losers Club is a group of friends who compare notes and realize they've all come face to face with with that they call it. Most tragically, Bill, whose brother Georgie was murdered by it. They faced it down as a group once before, and now they must do it again as adults who made a blood oath to return and fight if called to. And 27 years later, they've been called to. Welcome back to Derry, losers. This clown is ready to get down.
All right. Well, with that being said, Kristen, are you down with the clown? Do you recommend it? That's a no.
No, I wrote down my non-recommendation.
Okay.
Okay. Do I recommend? No. There is some really cool stuff here, and some of the book reads like a Goosebumps novel for grown-ups, which I really enjoyed. But number one, the book is bloated to the point of absurdity. It's over 1,000 pages long, which translates to a 44-hour-long audiobook. 44 hours. Trim it down, Unky Steve.
Trim it down now.
Trim it down now. Two. There were some things that were literally sickening and upsetting, and not in the fun horror way. And the oh my god, someone please get this real life horrors of man shit out of my head. Don't need it. 3. It gets so convoluted. Like, no spoiler alert, but this is about 4 levels more than just being about kids and then adults fighting a bad guy, and it's too much. In the beginning, I was thinking this was going to be a pleasant surprise of a recommendation from me since my clown hatred is well documented, but in the end, it's a big, begloved thumbs down. Honk honk.
Wow. So that's that, huh?
Yeah.
After all that, 45 hours of book, and you watched a 3-hour-long movie.
I liked the movie.
Do you recommend the movie?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I recommend the movie. Yeah.
Well, Kristen.
Yeah.
We're siblings. We may as well be twins. I do not recommend it.
Okay. I know you were on the fence. I've been on tenterhooks.
The tenderest of hooks. I don't recommend the book. Mm-hmm. I do recommend the movie.
Yeah.
We've talked on Book Club, Shmook Club many times before in the past about how movies are frequently opportunities for another draft.
Yes.
And boy, oh boy, do I think that this book needed another draft.
Completely.
It needs things cut out completely.
There are things that have nothing to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
For like,
and a lot of the things
length.
that like upset me so much have nothing to do with anything.
The murder, well, I guess that would be a spoiler. I'm not going to say that, but entirely, it's indulgent.
Yep.
It's too much. I think that
That's what I'm saying. It's weird. I don't know what's
stylistically
going on with him.
all over the place where, like we just said, it's like whiplash inducing. Mm-hmm. Like, oh boy, how fun is it to have Pennywise the Clown, like, mugging.
Yeah.
And, yucking it up and spooking people by making them think they're seeing something that's not really there, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And then it really does turn into almost like a gritty, uncomfortable, cop drama, about hate crimes being committed.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is horrible. And it's the kind of thing that I do also want to say that, like, mm-hmm. I ended up writing something in my notes about how, and I felt weird about it after, mm-hmm. but I wrote something about how, it is fatiguing. It's really exhausting mm-hmm. to just be continually pummeled mm-hmm. over the head with hate.
Yes.
Like over and over and over again. And a little bit of me was like, well, it's nice that I have the option to just close this book when I feel that way.
You know what? I was thinking the exact same thing. And I was like, well,
could
that be his point in a way? And I don't really
think so.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to write a book about a small town America where the evil is inside it.
Right.
And that would be the metaphor of the social ills where it's mm-hmm. like the monster is in the walls. It is the town.
Right.
It is the people. It infects everything and it makes everybody the monster. Mm-hmm. Like, all right. But that's not what I signed up for.
Not at all. I was not expecting that stuff.
And that can be okay. Like I'm no stranger to movies that are upsetting, media that challenges you. But in this form, and in particular by Stephen King, who always feels like he's writing with an air of mm-hmm. like this weird like self-assured, like uber confident patting himself on the back.
Well, also he's a white guy, so he's like the most protected of any mm-hmm. class of person.
Yes.
So for him to be writing this stuff feels particularly gross. It doesn't feel like a nuanced look at it. It's like, oh, look at this evil shit that I don't have to deal with in any way, probably.
Ultimately,
I mean, I don't know his life, but
Ultimately, what made me come back around to being like, should I feel bad about being like, oh, I don't want to hear about racism, which is like not an option for so many people. The thing that turned me around to just being like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. And I don't like support it or anything is this.
Yeah.
So frequently we're shown people in the town of Derry who are like filled with hate and are like gleeful to share with other people. And
Yeah.
bullying and hate crimes and everything. But here's the biggest problem about it. There are people that are quote unquote on the side of good.
Yeah.
That are being like just as racist.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird for our heroes, like two in particular, I guess, a cop who's like, who treats the idea of murdering a gay person as being like, listen, I get it, but you just shouldn't have done it.
Right.
And one of the members of the Losers Club, who one of his favorite go-tos is offensive, like, impressions of black stereotypes.
Yeah.
And he is one of the good guys.
I couldn't believe it. When he started doing that, I was like, huh.
Shocking. Some of it's the time
And
period.
that's funny.
I know, it's hilarious, isn't it?
It's just so great.
It's also treated like magic, by the way, at one point.
Yeah.
It's treated as if at one point there's a character named Richie Tozier who does impressions. He literally says to people, Richie Tozier's my name, doing voices is my game.
Well, I don't want to play. I'm out.
Why don't you go play yourself, Richie?
Yeah.
He literally, as a grown-up, he's being attacked by a monster, and the book describes it as if he's like channeling an energy to help him fight. And he bursts out with a voice he's never done before. And I was like, oh, what is this going to be? Is this going to be like the voice of God or something?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be down with that, but like, I don't know what this would be.
It's better than...
It was a different black stereotype than the one that he'd been doing the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And it saves the day. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? So that's a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, I mean, the book was written, I don't know how long ago. You know, I can't condemn Stephen King.
Published in
based on
1986.
this. Okay.
And it's
I'm
about
sure-
the 50s, at least half of it.
Yeah, but I still that's not an excuse to me. None of it's an excuse. I'm just saying, for all I know, Stephen King is much more like thoughtful than this now. But be that as it may, that's what's going on in this book, and it is so weird.
It's so weird.
and offensive.
Yes, yeah, completely. So I don't recommend the book. However, the movie.
Yeah,
talk about
great.
the movies super briefly.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the book is kind of like Goosebumps for adults.
Yep.
I would say the movie is just like Goosebumps for anyone.
Yes.
Like all ages, everyone stop on by. I don't think it's that
All ages?
intense.
I guess
I mean, I
not.
guess the stuff that I saw when I was a kid,
Yeah.
maybe don't take that as an endorsement
Pennywise
to
is-
literally have your like 8-year-old watch it.
Pennywise is really scary, I think.
I guess. I guess part of it is like I just don't find Pennywise that scary.
Yeah. All right. Maybe that's my stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie I think is like genuinely like kind of charming.
Yeah.
And it has a fun like the 80s. It's like got like a really steady vibe. It doesn't feel
totally.
like it's cobbled together. It doesn't feel like it was made for TV in particular.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah.
It's just a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. John Ritter's great. Loved seeing him.
Yep, absolutely.
Wasn't expecting him.
Yeah, Michael McKean's wife, Annette O'Toole. I couldn't think of her name without Michael McKean for some reason. Yeah, good time.
She was Superman's mom on Smallville.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that this means that we can expect the next It movie to be good as well.
I hope so.
Are you
going to
see that?
I'm about to say, I don't know if I'm going to see it. I'm not sure.
That
It
clown
looks
might
much
be too
more
scary.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The trailers don't make it look that exciting to me. The trailers make it look like it's like The Conjuring.
Yeah, kind of, with a clown, which I don't know, Tim Curry was really what drove me to see Beyond the Clown.
Yeah, he's something special.
So,
He's
I don't know if I just want to see a scary clown, really.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
This is it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be spoiled about it, get out now.
Scram.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Okay, here we go. Pardon the interruption. To run our show, Book Club Shmook Club needs help from our listeners. You can donate to the show by going to patreon.com/talkbomb, where you'll be able to choose a monthly donation that you feel comfortable with. As a thank you from us, you'll instantly get access to all of our bonus Between Book shows, which don't stay in our main feed. Every time a new one comes out, we bump the last one on over to Patreon. There are dozens and dozens of secret shows that you haven't had access to if you're not a donor. Doesn't that inflame your FOMO? That's fear of missing out. It's an acronym. You'll also have access to each new bonus show as it comes out and early access to all of our book reviews. We load them onto Patreon as soon as we record them, so our donors get all of our episodes days earlier than they show up on the public feeds. Again, going to patreon.com/talkbomb and setting up a donation makes that happen, and we thank you so much for it. If you would prefer to individually purchase our bonus episodes, you can find them in our shop at talkbomb.com, where we also have stickers and bookmarks for sale. We would also really appreciate your support by leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. Positive reviews help other people find our show by making podcast apps more likely to list us. It also helps validate us to people cruising around looking for something to check out. So leaving us a review is like paying it forward twofold, since it helps us and it turns someone else onto something you enjoy. And we do hope you enjoy the show, so let's get back to it. Okay. This plot is so much. So the book moves back and forth between the main characters' childhood goings-on in the 50s and their current lives in the 80s. The former members of the Losers Club are Mike, Bill, Beverly, Stan, Eddie, and Richie, and all but Mike have moved out of Derry. When a bunch of killings start happening again, Mike calls everyone and reminds them of their promise to come back home and fight it for good if it ever started again. None of them even remember the events of that year until that phone call, having blocked out the trauma and also because it psychically made them, I think. Part of the trauma is that they have pursued it. Part of the trauma is that they pursued it and found its main form is a creature housing something called the Deadlights that basically kill you or drive you insane if you see them. And they were able to injure it through entering its mind through something called the Ritual of Chud.
Yeah.
I did not remember this.
Chud.
When I had to look online for a refresh and I was like, the Ritual of Chud.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it.
Steven Weber, the man who narrates the book,
because of the trauma.
He pronounces it as chud.
Okay, still. Well, maybe Chud is funnier because of the fake movie Chud in Seinfeld.
Well, you're thinking of Chunnel.
Chunnel, that's what it is.
And
Chud is a real movie.
Chud is a real movie.
Yes,
It
okay.
is an acronym
it's
for cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Yeah, right, okay.
Right.
That's so silly of me. Anyway, okay, so yeah, they enter its mind doing the ritual of, I guess, Chud, enough to make it retreat. So they got away from it, but it was a very scary event altogether. They forgot about it.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Very scary. Stan immediately kills himself rather than go back, but the rest of the gang arrive in Derry and promptly begin getting messed with by it in different, scary, pretty awesome ways. We learn they basically have a psychic bond of friendship that gives them their fighting chance against it. Even though I'm going to gloss over a lot because we don't have 44 hours here, I would be remiss not to mention that they strengthened that bond to temporarily defeat it and survive in the 50s when they were 11 by everyone having sex with Beverly in turn. It is described in plenty of detail. What is the matter with Stephen King?
No waste of detail.
Nope.
Plenty of detail on that.
Physical feelings, mental feelings.
Yeah.
Creeping me out because they don't really know how to do it.
No. And Beverly has to teach them.
And that's more disgusting.
Beverly, the 11-year-old girl, has to teach them, which is presented, literally the way it is written, the way that it is presented.
What is the matter with him?
Is as if this is some amazing personal magic. She goes like, I know just what to do. This will keep us all together. This is the only way.
Look, honey, I'm here to tell you. If you want to keep it all together, you don't, sleeping them is not the way to do it.
Yeah, probably not.
Right. That's my bit. If I was in the 90s, it's like, yeah, you sleep with a man and then he disappears.
Listen, in my experience, the men just go away forever. That's how I get men to stay away.
That's good. You did it better.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're working. We're ripping.
We're working.
But it felt to me, not to completely jump away, but I almost just don't want to talk about this.
I was about to say, I actually don't want to talk about it again, so let's get it out now.
It felt to me like when a victim of abuse starts up the cycle on their own.
Yes. Yeah, it was just
it's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Because there's a lot of innuendo about her dad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of open-ended whether he has molested her or not.
Yeah.
And then she just so naturally knows how to do this. And it's just there's a lot of molestation theme running through this book too. And again, always in fucking detail.
Yeah.
Ugh. I guess the other thing I'm thinking of isn't not exactly molestation, but it's uncomfortable.
But I mean, children experimenting
it's
sexually.
Children. Yeah, it's disgusting.
So
the other thing I'm referencing is two boys who are the same age. That's why I'm saying it's not exactly. Not that there's like a gray area. So they're
sitting around half naked, lighting each other's farts.
Yeah, no better.
True.
No better foreplay.
And then one starts trying to celebrate the other. To use an old term an old euphemism.
Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's so stomach turning.
Not to say that it's not something that exists in reality. Not to say that it's not.
Completely.
Yeah, but
completely. Humans are sexual.
But like, I thought we were reading a mischievous clown book.
Yeah, me too. I was not ready for that. I was not ready for as much animal torture. Again, vividly described animal torture.
We got to talk about that in great detail.
I don't really want to. Wait, why?
Because the character Patrick Hockstetter I find fascinating. Anyway.
I don't care. I don't want to talk about it in great detail.
We don't talk about what he did to the animals. I want to talk about Patrick. Anyway, all right. Finish your thing. Let's never talk about those other events.
I'm already bummed out.
Yeah, they just bum you out. They just make you feel bad.
Yeah.
I know.
All right. Now, there's a lot more to all this, which is frankly unfortunate. I'm probably leaving out 7 subplots that Will and I will get into in various degrees of detail. But they end up facing off with Pennywise in the sewers. I think it's just a typo. In the sewers.
So you read it as a...
No. That's not the typo. That's not the typo. That was just my mouth.
They go to the sewers.
No. In the sewers, where once again, aided by Wikipedia, I can inform you that Bill engages in the ritual of Chud once more.
Yeah.
But is more ready to fight this time. But it is more ready to fight this time. Oh, did I mention it's a giant female spider with a bunch of eggs? It is. In the ensuing battle, it rips Eddie's arm off and he dies. Eventually, Bill defeats it by crushing its heart in his hands. It is dead. Derry has been having a mega storm up above and is totally flooded, which it would seem would cement that its reign in Derry is over, as Derry is kind of over. Everyone alive basically lives happily ever after and again begins to forget each other and the events that occurred in this sleepy little town with the big bad clown. Alone in a room, exhausted, defeated, I rest the book on my chest. I close my eyes. I die. The end.
Pennywise's final victim.
Yep.
Claimed by the clown. Where to start? I mean, what do we even do?
I don't know.
What the fuck are we supposed to do?
Just impressions out in the ether. It was hard to distinguish sometimes when they were adults and when they were kids.
Yep.
I would often have to be like, wait, what time frame is this? I'm not sure. Somebody will have a swig of beer soon enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Or smoke tons of cigarettes when they're kids.
Sure.
That's another marker.
Yep.
Because it was like cool. What do you got? Just off the top.
Off the top of my head.
Off the tip.
To review the audiobook itself, Steven Weber from, not Chips, but something else. Wings.
And Single White Female.
And the Shining that was directed by Stephen King on TV.
Yep.
Who says kissin', that's what I've been missing.
I still really want to see that.
So do I.
I love The Shining.
He narrated the book.
Yep.
And I didn't like it.
Me neither. I really just did not have a good experience with this book.
There are
listen to something for 44 hours that you don't like the content nor the performance of.
I'll say this. I'm not recommending the book. I am recommending the movie.
Same.
But it's not as though I was sitting there being like, oh, when will this end? I very quickly got into a groove where I was like, all right, like I listened to this book over the course of like a week and a half.
Ugh.
I just didn't stop. Once I started, I just never stopped.
God.
And it felt fine, but I'm reviewing the content. The content is not recommendable.
Yeah.
Actually listening to it though, it's so repetitious the way that so Pennywise is basically, from what I can tell, he is Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. He is a boggart. From Harry Potter. He knows your fear and he's going to show it to you.
Right.
And so a zillion times throughout the book, literally people will just be like, so I guess we're all fine. We should be fine for the rest of the night. And then an eyeball will appear and Stephen Weber will go,
yeah, yep.
And then a spider will appear and somebody else will go, a spider. And then someone will see a balloon. And it's literally the exact same cadence.
Yes.
The same length of time for each. by the end of 45 hours, I swear to God, I was just like, okay, so he does this for like, it's like 2 seconds each, and they'll go, hello, hello.
Yeah.
And it happens constantly. There was no variation. It felt.
Totally. I'm not reacting as big, dear listener, because William told me this already, but when he said that, I died because he's completely right.
It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I almost feel like for his own sanity, he would need to switch it up.
I found
it's bizarre.
myself picturing Steven Weber, recording this, and I often interchange Judge Reinhold for Steven Weber in my mind.
Is
just accidentally, because
Steven
they're
Weber
like,
a poor man's Judge Reinhold?
Is Judge Reinhold the rich version of anything?
It's a rich man's dream.
Not sure.
Where do you get the man who has
like
everything?
Judge Reinhold.
Some Judge Reinhold photos. Not even a movie.
But like, I would try to picture him in the booth being like, huh, huh, and I'd be like, wait, I'm thinking of Judge Reinhold.
Right, yeah.
And I have to switch back.
Yeah.
I have to like Google Steven Weber multiple times. Like, that's right. That's that guy's face. Okay.
Elaine!
I know you were sounding like Seinfeld. And, also, this is not exactly a criticism because I could see us me complaining about the opposite.
Yeah.
But the fact that he does the voices the same for the children and adults didn't help figuring out where you were in time. Like, I'm sure it'd be annoying if he was like, come on, Richie. But still, I couldn't, that was part of why I was like, all right,
where are we?
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
When are we? The narrative is continually cutting back and forth between the time periods.
And there was a weird stylistic thing, which I actually didn't feel bad or good about. It was just like a thing where it would switch between chapters mid-sentence.
Yeah.
So it would be like, man, I don't even know. Like, they walked over to ... and then the next chapter would be like, the bridge was blah, blah, blah.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm in the 50s right now, and I just saw chapter 43.
A demon!
Here in the 80s. Like, that's how they jump. Yeah. And it's like, all right, that's, I guess, kind of cool. It suggests that sort of, like, immediate, like, bebopping and scatting, like, we're here, now we're there, now we're here, now we're there.
Speaking of bebop and scat, first appearance of rock and roll comes the 2-hour mark.
Oh, wow.
Not exactly. It's like,
it took that long?
I know. That's why I noted it, because I was surprised. I was like, wait a second. Is this the first time we've talked about this?
That's surprising to me.
And then happens obviously 8,000 times after that.
Right.
But, yeah, let me see. I took a bunch of, well, not like a bunch, but some notes. For, possible first mention of rock and roll is what I wrote. 2 hours, 22 minutes. And then, they keep saying in the beginning, but it drops off. It's like their thing that they'll be like, you bet your fur about things.
Bet your fur.
And I said, does that mean pubes? But like, seriously, you bet your fur I'm gonna go down there.
That's weird. I think.
You think?
Well, pubic hair is mentioned not infrequently in this book.
But also they're like kids,
so.
and like kids are like weird like that. So I think it probably means that.
Maybe.
I think it probably does.
I don't know. Along those lines where you're just like, what the hell? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What is this person saying? I'm pretty sure. I can't confirm this.
I've got some pretty exciting
Main
ones.
character, Bill Denborough.
Yeah.
Is married to an actress named Audra Phillips.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure at one point she says that something won't be worth doodly squat. I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I didn't rewind. I didn't bother going back to confirm. I just kept trucking. But I'm pretty sure she said doodly squat.
My notes are all along these lines of me being like this weird thing, so I'm just going to go through them.
All right.
Okay. And they're contextless, so I'm sorry. I'm not sure, because a lot of these I was driving and then I was like, Siri, take a note. Okay. Here's what I wrote. This is fine. All right. I wrote, John Kennedy dropped a stinky wink. I apologize that this is my first note, but I couldn't let this one go by unremarked.
John Kennedy dropped a stinky wink?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I know, that happened at some point.
Stinky wink.
I know. And then another note. What the fuck is with the quote at the beginning of the chapter about my sweet little toot toot? What does that have to do with anything? He is just so weird. You know how in some books it'll be like a poem or whatever before it like launches into the chapter? It was definitely like rock and roll lyrics that were, it says something about my sweet little toot toot. And I was driving and I was like, what?
my sweet little toot toot.
No, it's like, I don't know, it's like lyrics.
I do remember, I think at the very, very, very beginning of the book, it was like, these times
my notes are so fun.
These times they ain't gonna catch us. These times they ain't gonna get us down, or something, whatever. And it was like ain't or slang or whatever. And the way that Steven Weber reads it is like the cornballiest,
yeah,
like whitest. He's like, these times, they ain't going to get us, and they ain't going to take us down. I was like, oh, like, these are like sharp sounds coming out of your mouth. Yeah. I don't like this.
The other one that's weird is I wrote, why all of a sudden late in the game, in the same chapter where they go into that house on, I wrote Bold Street, but I mean that scary,
Neibolt
like,
Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or it was voice text, that's why. When they go into that house on Neibolt Street again, does King use the word Fanny twice?
Says Fanny a couple times in that?
Yeah. And that
had nothing to do with Toot Toot?
No, it was a separate chapter. It was different days.
Bizarre.
And then the teenage werewolf who's pursuing Richie, I think,
yeah,
is wearing a Letterman jacket that says Derry High School Killing Team, number 13.
That is the dorkiest thing.
Oh man.
I'm on the killing team.
And then my other thing.
Oh, I'm so scared right now.
Yeah, yikes. And the other thing was that Bill said that at one point Audra she had lost a lot of weight because she was on a strict poultry, cottage cheese, tuna fish diet.
I remember that.
I was like, ugh.
That is strict.
Did you lose weight because you don't want to eat that altogether?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Like, well, then I'm not going to eat anything,
indirectly?
I guess. Yeah. Can we just launch into some horror stuff? Because I was excited to figure out what the deal was with it.
Yes.
At a certain point, he goes like immediately, like the iconic thing about this book.
Yeah.
Is a kid floating a paper boat, a newspaper sailboat down the street. It's been raining and it's drifting along in the water and it goes down into the sewer.
You know what's funny? I didn't know that at all or anything. I really knew nothing about this except for that the clown was scary.
That's like iconic.
Well, now that I know that, when I've done research and everything, I see that everywhere. And I literally didn't know anything about it. I just knew there was a scary clown. I avoided it so hardcore for my whole life.
Well,
but that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised because it does seem like an iconic pop culture moment. And I think I just had such blinders
That's the Here's Johnny of this book.
Yeah. It's sad.
Georgie Denborough.
Sad. Come on.
That's sad.
That's sad.
Georgie Denborough loses his boat in the garbage hole, whatever it's called, sewer. I couldn't think of the word sewer.
I think it's the water hole.
The old water hole. And a clown
garbage
appears.
Water hole.
He's like, how you doing, Georgie?
That's so messed up.
And Georgie's like, my dad told me not to talk to strangers. And I goes, very wise of you, Dad. Very wise indeed. I like the Tim Curry Pennywise voice a lot.
Me too. He's particularly creepy because you can see the reds of his eyes and in his mouth. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's spooky looking.
God.
And he goes, all right, well, I am Pennywise the Clown. Or no, he goes like, I'm Mr. Bob Gray.
Yeah.
Better known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. He tries to offer him a balloon. Immediately, I'm like, Bob Gray. It's funny that like he immediately says at the top of the book, like, not that I assumed this flat out, like I did not think on any level that we were going to have to figure out his real identity.
Yeah.
But the fact that he goes like, I'm Bob Gray.
Yeah.
But I go by Pennywise the Dancing Clown. It's like, aha. Cool. Suggesting like his previous human form before he became a dream demon.
Right.
Like how Freddy Krueger was like a human before he became Freddy Krueger, the nightmare guy that haunts you in your dreams. Okay. Bob Gray. Got it. Barely ever comes up again.
Right.
It rears its head for one of the best moments in the book when grown-up Beverly goes to an old woman's house.
That is sweet.
And she's like, my father was Bob Gray.
Until it's not.
And she starts like literally as she's talking, her face starts turning gray and black and her teeth start being covered in gunk. She turns into a witch. And then I realize she's literally turning into the witch from Hansel and Gretel and her house starts to be being made out of candy all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, too far.
Oh man, I meant to take it out. She's like, it's more Steven. Well, it's both. I'd say it's 50% the book, 50% Steven Weber. He's like, then Beverly looked down. She realized the table was made of fudge. And I thought that was really funny.
So stupid. So stupid. Just have her decay.
I know.
Right in front of you. That's what I thought was happening. And it was amazing.
Like a mummy.
Like truly great.
Yes.
It was terrific. And then he went too far.
Yeah. And then he goes really too far. Again, don't want to get too far into it. Almost wish I didn't mention it right now because I don't want to talk about it at all. It turns into her dad saying horrifically filthy, vile sexual things.
Yeah, and chases her. Literally, they have a chase scene running around the town.
There's so much in this book.
And people ignore that it's happening. Yeah.
Genuinely, really, really, really stuck with me and upset me. And like, it would pop into my head and make me think about it.
Yeah.
There are things that dad says to her that like, if it was just like consenting adults would be horrific and disgusting. It's so upsetting.
He's very upset that she's been hanging out with all of those boys, and he wants to know if they did anything.
And worse than that. No, that's later.
That's later?
That's later. I don't even want to get into it. That's a separate issue.
Huh. Okay.
He's just talking about how he wants to do stuff to her in the house.
Oh, yeah. Great. Good stuff. Anyway, so Pennywise the Dancing Clown, Izzy Bob Gray. Guess what? No.
Right.
I've looked it up now because they don't say anything in the rest of the book. They do not explain why he calls himself
I'm glad
Bob
you did,
Gray.
'cause I'm a little bit confused by that, because one of the things about the book that I actually think I could like in another lifetime, in a different context, was Mike's dad was kind of a town historian. But it just ends up being just too much because there's already so much going on in the book. But there was some kind of talk of pictures of what seemed to be Pennywise in human form, maybe, or something, but I was kind of confused by it. So please fill it in.
All right. So, here's what I've got. It, the monster, Pennywise, it is perhaps millions or billions of years old. This is from online.
Oh,
This is my research.
Yeah, I read this, yeah.
Here's a quote from like the Stephen King, wiki.
Yeah.
It apparently originated from an undisclosed void containing and surrounding the entire universe, a place referred to in the novel as the Macroverse.
Right.
A concept later established, and this will open up a lot of doors for you. It's a concept later established as the Todash Darkness. Okay?
Okay.
We all know that.
Sure.
The children see it as a gigantic spider, but really that's just because the human mind can't comprehend its true form. So our mental projection of this fourth dimensional shit beast also imagines.
Shit beast?
I wrote shit.
Oh,
beast.
okay.
We're back to me.
Fourth dimensional shit beast. That's really funny.
So all of a sudden, when we're just trying to figure out what this thing is, and the best we can do is be like, I guess it's a spider because I can't see its full form.
Yeah.
I guess we're also then imagining that it laid eggs.
Yeah.
Because that seems like pretty hardcore, just like, that's
totally.
just a spider thing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
do.
they talk about how there are eggs in there.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, have you ever seen the, oh man, who's that smart boy? Carl Sagan.
Yes.
You ever see Carl Sagan talk about what it would be like if we were visited by somebody from the fourth dimension? Like an extra dimensional being? He talks about the concept of 2D world. Literally, there's height and width. And that's it. There's no depth. If a being with depth visited that world, and his example was this.
Wait, real quick, not to get too far into it. Why are we talking in terms of 2D world if we're talking about them coming to visit us?
Because this is the best that I can do to, like, approximate to you why we would only see part of an extra dimensionary monster.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it would contain an extra dimension that we don't have access to.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So imagine if you're looking at like a bird's eye view of a floor plan.
Okay.
Right? Like literally like an architect's drawing of like, here's the living room. That's a flat image. If you put, and this is Carl Sagan's example, and it's a great one. If a being that was shaped like an apple, literally a an apple, landed in the middle of that living room. An apple is not flat on the bottom. It makes like 4 points of contact because it has those little like bumps on the bottom. To a person in a two-dimensional space, they wouldn't see one being land there. They would see 4 points appear in front of them, and they wouldn't know that they're part of the same thing. They'd just be like, what is this?
Yeah.
And there's so much more of it that it can't even see.
Right.
That is what I interpret it as being.
Right.
But then there's this weird other thing about it being this eldritch horror about, like, okay, it's from another dimension and we're just trying to like make the most out of what it must be. We can't tell what it is. And the best the human mind can do is like, okay, it's probably something like a spider.
Yeah.
It's weird then that now we're talking about approximations and what we're making up to make it make sense and being like, okay, I guess it's kind of like a spider. And then also super conveniently, it also lays eggs exactly like a spider.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there are things that just don't super duper connect.
Yes.
They don't feel like they're actually.
You're totally right. That's just like a weird convenience thing that doesn't actually
sounds
gel.
like it's literally a spider.
You're right.
Sounds like it's literally a psychic spider.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now dig on this. Its natural form exists in a realm beyond the physical, which is called the deadlights.
Okay.
Seeing the deadlights might kill you or drive you insane. Its natural enemy, and of course this is a no-brainer, is the turtle.
Well, you know what? I ran out of time. Isn't there like a weird thing about Turtle World?
Weird? It's not weird. The turtle is another ancient macroverse dweller who, eons ago, created the universe and
Isn't
possibly
that, like, a
others.
real thing, though, in like some sort of
In like
belief
philosophy
system?
or something.
Yeah.
So. The turtle appears in King's series The Dark Tower as Maturin, one of the guardians of the beam.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that we didn't make it further in the Dark Tower.
The series suggests that it, along with the turtle, are themselves creations of a separate omnipotent creator referred to as the Other, who may be the
Which is
entity.
Stephen King.
Who may be the entity Gan. The turtle and it are eternal enemies in a battle of creation against consumption. It may, in fact, be either a twinner of or the actual one of the 6 greater demon elements mentioned by Mia in Song of Susanna. As the spider is not one of the beam guardians.
I just called
it
myself
arrived in
zoning out.
our world, a massive cataclysmic event brought it to our world similar to an asteroid in the place that would later become Derry. So that's the origin of Pennywise.
Oh my God.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Like,
totally. Does that exist
it's not his
anywhere
fault
besides the internet? Like,
what do you
does
mean?
he explain that?
I mean, I guess he explains it in The Dark Tower when he's like macroverse
is it cobbled
and whatever.
together from other books or just the Dark Tower?
I don't really have an answer for you.
There's an annoying little crossover in this book too.
There are plenty of crossovers in this one. What are you thinking of?
Dick Halloran.
Yeah. Dick Halloran is a friend of Mike Tozier's dad.
Yep. No, Mike Hanlon.
Mike Hanlon.
Yeah.
Also, they constantly mention Shawshank Prison.
Yep.
To the point that it doesn't feel like a fun nod to that other universe.
I get it.
It feels like it's just like smashing it in the face and being like, get it?
Yeah.
Like that other one I wrote.
Completely.
It is the same species as a monster from the Dark Tower named Dan Dello, who claimed to have been a stand-up comedian. He's presented as an old man, and he's like, I was a stand-up comedian. He also has a totally arbitrary fake human alias, which is Joe Collins. So just like Bob Gray, just goes by Joe Collins. And he is described in that book as a psychic vampire who feeds on human emotions. So that is what
like
it
Rose
is.
the Hat?
Yeah, like Rose the Hat, which made me think of The Shining, which also made me think, like, is this somehow similar to what happened in The Shining? We just didn't know that there was a Dan Dello psychic vampire there, because the same way that it eats Henry's mind and like kind of possesses the young bully Henry.
Yeah.
It's very similar to The Shining, how they corrupt Jack Torrance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I actually didn't think about that. You're totally right.
Yeah.
All right, now that we mentioned like bullies, why don't you get out your thoughts about the guy who I hate everything that he does, whatever his name is.
Patrick Hockstetter.
Yeah.
Okay. Patrick is a member of Henry Bowers' bully squad.
Yeah.
And he's like a non-entity for most of it. He's just like, he's in the group, whatever.
Right. Oh, I just remember that one of the things I was thinking of, it's actually Henry who does it. There are 2 different dog killings mentioned, a baby killing.
Yeah.
One dog killing's Henry, one dog killing is Patrick. Wait, what's his name?
Patrick Hockstetter.
Patrick Hockstetter, and the baby killing is Patrick Hockstetter. Again, as with all upsetting, unpleasant things in here, great detail that has stuck in my mind.
I am shocked that you were not fascinated by Patrick. He is like,
what he did was it was just.
It is horrible, but it's like, it's so much like the sort of like true crime fascination. It was actual like human horror about serial killers that I would think. It feels like it could easily be the origin story for Ted Bundy.
Yeah, it could be. But then there was hokey stuff about it that was again, and again, when I say of the time doesn't mean it's fine because it was of that time, but like, oh, a serial killer guy is gay because it's also a perversion. Like,
well, I guess, I don't know.
It just felt, it felt basic.
There's like an entire chapter.
Patrick Hockstetter's a basic bitch.
There's an entire chapter that's from Patrick's point of view, which is weird because the book doesn't really do that much.
Yeah.
And, he talks about how he, even though he's just one of the like friends or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, Patrick believes he's the only real person in the world. And my ears perked up and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, what does that mean? He's a psychopath and he's a sociopath. And he literally believes that he is the only real existing thing in the world. And everything else is somehow like a projection or just like an obstacle in his way. But like you have to play by the rules that everybody else plays by. So you have to outwardly appear like you're following the rhythms of a day to day. And I was like, this is okay, what?
I mean, you saying that makes it sound sweet.
Yeah.
It was just, I guess I was just so about this book. I was like, yeah, whatever.
So basically, he tries to mac on Henry Bowers, who's the leader of the bully gang. And Henry punches him in the mush and says, if you tell anybody what you just did to me, I'll tell them about your fridge. And my ears perked up again. It's like, what is that? He's been, he finds wounded animals.
I hate even thinking about this.
And then puts them in this old refrigerator that's basically in a dump in the middle of nowhere, or just like, I couldn't really figure out. To me, it was simultaneously, it was in the middle of a landfill and just somehow leaning against a tree in the middle of nowhere.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
And so he's just like, he's got this like little gallery of nightmares that he loves and he curates. And so he's like, oh crap. Well, Henry's going to tell him about my fridge. I guess I better empty my fridge. And when he's walking over there to empty out his fridge, he's thinking about the first kill he ever made, which was of his own little brother. His parents had another child, and he became very paranoid that this child would be real as well, and that it would literally replace him. He was nervous that there was another real human being in the world. And so he was jealous of it and angry at it. And so he smothers it to death. Now,
in great detail.
oh, yes, absolutely. But that is a fascinating, that's like a weird, like, I mean, I don't buy it as like any sort of real, psychiatric diagnosis of what a person with, sociopathy and psychopathy thinks, but like, it was fascinating to be like,
that's beyond.
I'm the only real person in the world,
sociopathy.
but my little brother would be made of the same stuff as me.
That's like a whole other thing. That's not just.
What if he's real too?
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then he gets, basically sucked to death by giant flying leeches. And that was stupid to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it was awful.
That's pretty much it. I will say this. Later on, Henry Bowers, the leader of the bullies, who like tries to carve his name in people's tummies.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Is basically corrupted, possessed, brainwashed by it to do its bidding in the 80s when everyone's grown up.
Right.
Henry was framed for the murders in the 50s. Escapes with the help of Pennywise in the 80s to try to kill the losers.
Yeah, from Juniper Hills Mental Institution, which is a really good name.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was thinking pretty much immediately, like, why isn't this Patrick? This should just be Patrick.
No, I know that. I thought the same thing. I was like, because everything is so long. For a second, I melded the characters of Henry Bowers and Patrick in my mind, and I was like, wait, why is this not like the really brutal, psychopathic kid? I mean, they both were like horrendous.
Well, also,
but Patrick was way more homicidal.
We got a couple of chapters from its point of view, and it is super narcissistic, and believes that like it is all powerful, and there's only one other person that could possibly challenge him, and it's the turtle, but he probably can't either,
right? And
everyone else is like not really real; they're just like toys.
Yeah,
like well, that's. Okay, well then, bam, you've got a direct foil or a direct analog in the human world with Patrick.
Yes.
He's your boy.
Yeah.
Like, Patrick doesn't believe in anything.
Yeah, totally.
So you can just use him. Like, just be like, I'm contacting you, I am you.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you.
I know, it's weird.
You should go kill those kids. And Patrick would just be that person.
I know.
Henry Bowers has to be corrupted. Patrick's already corrupt.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Henry Bowers is pretty damn corrupt.
Well, but
Patrick
it seems like he's
like
been being corrupted his whole life.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like...
Yeah, well, his dad is horrible and kind of like does feed into...
Right.
And kind of create some of his more horrible racist tendencies.
But theoretically, Patrick was immediately...
Yes, true.
No matter what anyone did.
Yeah.
He would have been a nightmare man.
Yeah, totally. I really liked it when Tim Curry appeared in the moon to talk to Henry Bowers and get him to go out there.
I loved it.
Yep.
I loved it so much.
Yep.
It was like the baby in Teletubbies.
Yeah, totally.
His face.
Yeah.
Face in the moon. I don't really want to talk about the Losers Club. It's funny. Like, I feel like I simultaneously could end the show right this second.
I'm ready to wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
But
I hate talking about this.
We haven't mentioned any of the main characters. We haven't talked about anything that happens in this book.
Yeah.
And I think that some of that is a function of the book just having too much in it.
There's way too much in it. There's no way we could possibly.
I think that some of it is the fact that this book just doesn't feel like it actually has an impact in any way. The way that it's structured, you've got the Losers gang. They're a bunch of friends. They've all been wronged. They've all witnessed Pennywise in their own ways and realize, and then collectively they go like, oh my God, we've all seen that clown. Oh, I guess he's real.
Yeah.
And the way it's structured is that the two storylines play out simultaneously, the 50s story and the 80s story, them as kids and them as adults. And they each have their big finale with Pennywise at basically the same time in the book.
Yeah.
So it'll be like young Bill Denborough, back when he was Stutterin' Bill, is fighting Pennywise in the 50s. And then next sentence, all right, here's Bill all grown up. He's a writer, and he's fighting Pennywise again. And they won against Pennywise in the 50s, but they didn't kill him. In the 80s, we're going to fight him again. This time, we're going to put him down.
Yeah.
And I just don't really know that story really carries that much excitement for me.
I feel like we haven't talked about them that much because they're the least bombastic parts of the book in some ways. They're not the big scary monster things. They're the people that the scary monster things happen to.
Right.
They're not the horrible bullies who are like, oh God. Like, they're just kind of... They're what all these stuff happens around. Do
they deserve time or do they just not? Because I really don't really have that much to say about them. I feel like they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. I think if we don't have much to say, then they don't deserve time. There's no reason to force it.
No, I agree. I agree. One of the things that I was thinking about this, I mentioned earlier that I feel like Pennywise is Freddy Krueger, and allow me to draw the parallel a little bit further.
Please do, with your long knife finger.
A Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984. This book came out in 1986.
Yeah.
They're both about a monster that knows what you're afraid of.
Yeah.
He's going to use it against you.
Yeah.
And he can change reality, and he can shape shift, and he can appear wherever he wants.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, totally.
It's a little weird.
There's a thing to that.
I'm not going to say that Stephen King was inspired by and or ripped off A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I will say this.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger can attack you in your dreams, and if you wake up, you're safe.
Right.
Except you know you're going to fall asleep again sometime soon. You can't control that.
Yeah.
Pennywise can literally get you any old time.
Yeah.
But because of that, we have all of these arbitrary rules about how he needs to sleep for 30 years.
Yeah.
And about how, for some reason, he needs to possess Henry Bowers to get him to do his bidding.
Yeah, there are a lot of things where I was like, well, why don't you just go do that?
Yeah, or are you
also,
not omnipotent?
Movie,
you seem omnipotent.
In the movie, he's constantly just taunting them, and I was like, it's obviously for purposes because it's a movie and it would just be over, but like, why don't you just kill him?
Yeah. If he's all powerful.
He likes to play with his food.
Yes. I mean, he does talk about how it's, okay, I scare kids.
Yeah.
Because kids' fears are easier to represent, and it spices the meat.
Yes.
Fear.
It seasons the meat.
And that's an interesting idea, I guess, but it really feels to me like he could have just killed those adults.
Yeah, completely.
You know?
Yeah, if that's a threat to your very existence, you're like, all right, I'll have a delicious snack later. Let me just take care of this.
Yeah. And to extend the Freddy Krueger thing even further, the Losers Club is the Dream Warriors in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and this was not developed really until the sequels, but kind of sort of it happens in the first one. It's implied that you can do stuff in the dream world that you can't do in the real world.
Okay.
In future movies that would have come out after this book was written.
Yeah.
So maybe they were inspired by this.
Okay.
But people begin to develop dream powers. So it'd be like, okay, this is my persona in dream world.
Yeah.
And this is my special unique ability that I can use against Freddy Krueger.
Like video game people.
Yep. And in this, it really starts to feel, especially at the end, that Beverly is kind of psychic, I guess, and Bill can do the chud thing, and Richie can use magic voices to channel other people, and
at first
it's like they
I
each
thought
have...
that it was going to be like their happiness repels it. Because, I think it's Stan, like when he's a little kid, just starts naming names of birds that he loves from his bird book. God. And it is like, ha! And I was like, so love repels?
It's imagination. It's believing.
Yeah.
I'm still not clear.
I don't
and
know.
I can't tell if I'm fine with it or if I hate it. But it's one of the two. I'm either ambivalent toward it or I really, really, really do not like it. In the movie, young Eddie Kazbrak, who's a kid with asthma, walks up to Pennywise and goes, "This battery acid, you slime." Well, but it's easy to visualize it. And he sprays his asthma inhaler in Pennywise's face. And I guess because he's playing
again,
because he believes it melts Pennywise's face.
Like the food fight in Hook.
Yeah. Yeah, you believe it and it's real.
You believe it, then it's real.
Yeah.
You throw around that colored not cream cheese.
That colored cream. That's true. Or like in the trailer for The Dark Tower, when Idris Elba starts being like, I don't aim with my hand.
Oh, yeah.
I aim with my mind. I don't kill with my bullet. I kill with my heart.
Yep.
And I both am like, do I like that or hate it?
Yeah, no.
I'm either, I kind of like it or I really hate it. And I can't figure it out.
I think the heart part makes it worse.
It sounds so pathetic.
That makes it worse. When he said mind, and there were 3 things in heart was the last. The first 2 were like fine. And then we said that part, I was like, all right.
Kill with my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
What's wrong with your heart, bro?
I both like, I guess it's about the power of intent, right? Like, if you mean it, it becomes real. If you master your fear, how do you fight a boggart?
Yeah, but those 2 things, like, it doesn't match. It's not that across the board. You know?
Yeah.
Does Richie Tozier believe so strongly in his racist impression?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yes, but like,
sure
but it's
does.
already real. It's not like, like Eddie being like, "This is battery acid."
Well,
like,
it is implied in the book that that Richie Tozier walks up and goes like, "Hey, you goddamn son of a bitch!" He does like this old Irish cop voice, and then the Irish cop in town, stands up out of his chair. He hasn't spoken in like decades or something. He's got like, and he says those words and then slumps over. And it's like, so all of a sudden, like at the 0 hour, this is like the end of the book.
Yeah.
Are we saying that he's taking those voices from elsewhere?
Oh my God.
That he's literally channeling them? Because they do at one point, like when he's a kid, he's constantly doing his cop voice. His Irish cop, get out of there. And then at one point, he becomes a man. And they say he didn't do his Irish cop impression. He was an Irish cop. I'm like, well, no, he's not, first of all. And do you mean he's doing it better? And then what I got at the end was he's literally like stealing that voice somehow. What does that mean?
I did not get that impression. I don't know. Now that you're saying it, I do kind of remember the cop standing up, but I don't think he's taking people's voices like Ursula the Sea Witch.
No, not to keep. I think he's like channeling them somehow.
Oh man, I don't know.
I don't understand.
Who knows? Maybe there's so much going on. Sure, that could be.
The final thing that I have anything to say about, I think, is the fact that your memories fade when you're not in town.
Right.
The idea that Derry itself is evil, and as you go away from it, you forget stuff.
Yeah.
The kids lived out this intense life as children, and then they all grew up and moved away for one reason or another and became rich and weren't able to have babies. Which is weird. Whatever.
It doesn't connect. It's not like, I don't know.
And then they forget about it all.
Right.
Until Mike Hanlon, who always stayed in town, calls each one of them and says, you got to come back. It is back.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years. It's been sleeping, and now it's back, and town's super violent again. Come back. Every one of them comes back except for Stan, who commits suicide. One of the only ideas in the book where I was like, this feels like what it would be like in real life if demons and monsters existed. Where it's just like, where you're just like, it's eldritch.
I'm not going back to that.
Eldritch horror, incomprehensible.
Yeah.
It drives you immediately insane to think about it, and Stan forgot about it. And 30 years later, somebody reminded him, and he's like, well, broke his brain, kills himself so that he doesn't have to be in a world where monsters are real.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes.
If we all woke up tomorrow and there were demons, it would break our minds. It would break our reality. I don't think that we'd be like, well, I guess we're going to have to fight him.
No way.
If he's literally doing magic and shape-shifting, like, no. But so now,
I would crack into
at the very end of the book, they're all forgetting stuff again, even though they all regrouped.
Yeah.
Moved on, and it's all fading. And they're saying, like, I could write down these events that have all transpired to try to keep them fresh in my mind, but each day would just become an exercise. I'd just be writing them down because I always write them down. They wouldn't mean anything to me anymore.
Right.
As a romantic concept, I appreciate that.
Sure.
As a literal, there's an event that's transpiring, I don't really understand.
No.
If it is dead, why does that magic still exist? Why? What does that? What does that mean?
Because it's not dead because he knew that he would want to do something with it later.
I don't think he did, but he didn't write a sequel to this.
So.
Like, he didn't write like It Too.
Yeah, but he obviously always likes having little things. Like he sprinkled Dick Halloran in there. You know what I mean?
I guess.
So I think it's just something like that.
Maybe. I mean, this book does
you could look back and be like, well,
right.
Actually, Pennywise wasn't confirmed dead. If people were like, how is he showing up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they do say in like future books, other Stephen King books, it'll say like Pennywise lives on a statue and stuff. And you're supposed to be like, oh.
Why are they erecting a statue
he doesn't.
that says Pennywise lives?
Because
They like him?
We're meant to believe in other Stephen King works that the Losers Club, erected a statue to all the children who had been murdered by it, and then somebody spray painted Pennywise.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I thought it was a statue that like. There was like a plaque that said Pennywise lives.
I also don't buy that.
Why are they celebrating him?
I also don't buy that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.
Do other people know he's even called Pennywise?
I know. It begs more questions than it is worth to even think about.
This book honks.
As a concept, I will once again say I think it is great.
Yeah, it's a cool concept.
Somebody could take it and run with it.
In its limited way, without everything expanded around it.
Right. Yeah. I think that Stephen King is an idea man, and I don't like his execution more often than not.
Me too.
I find that he usually makes me feel bad and or confused and or makes me cringe.
Yep. Same.
Is that it? Is that just it? Like he seems like he's probably a nice person.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Like what we said at the beginning. Yeah.
It just makes me feel gross.
Makes me feel horrible.
And embarrassed.
Yep.
And makes me wish that I could just see somebody else take these ideas and do something better with them.
Completely. That's probably why the movies are better.
Yeah, exactly. So it remains to be seen how it will go going forward. I don't know if the next movie will be any good. Yeah. I don't know if it means that, we're going to see Pennywise not only in the It movie, but we're also going to see hints of him in The Dark Tower, and we're going to see him in Castle Rock. I don't know.
I guess so. I mean, he's a really, really popular character, so they might be just looking to like bring it on home and put him wherever.
Shouldn't be this popular.
Because the guy who, oh no, I'm getting mixed up. Never mind. I was about to say the guy who's playing Pennywise in the movie is in Castle Rock, but not as Pennywise. He's like being somebody else.
From what they're saying, he's not being Pennywise.
Right.
But it sounds like they want to do something with Pennywise. I think that that's the kind of thing that like
it could be.
This is too much. He shapeshifts and he's a spider and he lives underground in plumbing. And if you look at him, you die or go insane. His name is Bob Gray. And, like it's a lot of like plus this, and
they're all disparate. They don't match up.
And they all would probably work fine in their own stories that are the length of a normal, like, paperback horror novel.
Right.
But he created this gigantic, grandiose adventure epic where all of this crap is smashed together in one thing. Yeah. And I don't think they play nice together. No. I don't think they work together. And so even more than that is a reason to also just be like, well, good idea, bad execution. You did too much.
Completely. Maybe divide it up a little bit.
Maybe.
Sort your laundry.
Yeah, just get a good editor.
Yeah.
Totally. Too indulgent.
Yeah.
Too indulgent.
All right. Well, now we're indulging and talking about how indulgent he is and
Fair
terrible.
Enough. You're right.
Okay. So next time when we come back, next time we come back next week, we're going to have an off-topic episode. I'm supposed to be talking about whatever.
That's right. We do that every other week in between book reviews. They only stay up on iTunes and all that stuff for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
We pull them and they go over to Patreon.
Yes.
Our donation service. So we've got zillions of those. But the only way you can get them is on patreon.com/talkbomb. Anyway, we're going to do another off-topic one next week.
Yeah. Before the following week, we talk about the book Meddling Kids, which came out this summer and is kind of buzzy. It's by Edgar Cantero. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it sounds really good. I'm just going to read the description from Amazon. It says it's a New York Times bestseller. Freaky pleasure. It scratches a nostalgic itch for those who grew up on Saturday morning Scooby-Doo cartoons and Sugar Bomb breakfast cereal from USA Today. Deliriously wild, funny, and imaginative, Cantero is an original voice from Charles Yu, author of How to Live in a Science Fictional Universe. With raucous humor and brilliantly orchestrated mayhem, Meddling Kids subverts teen detective archetypes like the Hardy Boys, the Famous Five. The Famous Five, do you know what that is?
No idea what that is.
Me either.
Nope.
And Scooby-Doo, and delivers an exuberant and wickedly entertaining celebration of horror, love, friendship, and many tentacled interdimensional demon spawn. Like, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Summer 1977. The Blyton Summer Detective Club of Blyton Hills, a small mining town in Oregon's Zoinks River Valley, solved their final mystery and unmasked the elusive Sleepy Lake Monster, another low-life fortune hunter trying to get his dirty hands on the legendary riches hidden in Des Moines Mansion. Or something. And he would have gotten away for it too if it weren't for those meddling kids. Wow, this has some parallels. Yeah. 1990. The former detectives have grown up and apart, each haunted by disturbing memories of their final night in the old haunted house. There are too many strange, half-remembered encounters and events that cannot be dismissed or explained away by a guy in a mask. And Andy, the once intrepid tomboy, now wanted in 2 states, is tired from running from her demons. She needs answers. To find them, she will need Carrie, the one-time kid genius and budding biologist, now drinking her ghosts away in New York with Tim, an excitable Weimaraner descended from the original canine member of the club. They will also have to get Nate, the horror nerd currently residing in an asylum in Arkham, Massachusetts. Luckily, Nate has not lost contact with Peter, the handsome jock-turned-movie star who was once their team leader, which is remarkable, considering Peter has been dead for years. The time has come to get the team back together, face their fears, and find out what actually happened all those years ago at Sleepy Lake. It's their only chance to end the nightmares and, perhaps, save the world. A nostalgic and subversive damn it, guys, I'm sorry. A nostalgic and subversive trip, rife with sly nods to H.P. Lovecraft and pop culture, Edgar Cantero's Meddling Kids is a strikingly original and dazzling reminder of the fun and adventure we can discover at the heart of our favorite stories, no matter how old we get.
Interesting. I like that. And it does feel like there are a lot of interesting parallels to it.
Yeah, totally. It should be fun.
I'm a big fan of Scooby-Doo.
Me too.
I'm down with a modern interpretation of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of modern media is people that are trying to recapture the things that they loved.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So yeah, I'm totally
I think that's probably always the case, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
We just notice it because now we can recognize those references for ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm sure things in the 80s were calling back to things from the 60s and whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
I mean, like even, Star Wars was based on the fact that George Lucas used to watch like old, documentaries about World War II. Indiana Jones was old serials.
Yeah.
So absolutely. But it's fun to now just be like, oh, someone's writing a new modern Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, totally.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So we are going to talk about that new modern Scooby-Doo called Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero on August 18th.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you can find the link to it on our TalkBomb page.
Yeah. So we'll put up the link to buy it if you go to talkbomb.com/schmook. SHMOOK.
Yep.
If you buy it through us, it doesn't cost extra, but it does support this show, both the tech that we talk into and the cost of putting the show on the internet.
Yes.
So yeah, that's in 2 weeks.
Yep.
But what did you think of this show? I can already tell you that our thoughts on it will be considered controversial by people that revere what is undisputably a horror classic.
Of course.
An icon of horror by one of the icons of horror.
Totally.
What did you think? Send us your thoughts, and hey, don't eviscerate us.
Yeah.
But I would be curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can get in touch with us all over the internet, like on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep, I'm at Chillin' Kristen on both.
I'm at Haunted Sponge all over the internet. I'm also at Will Rogers 2000. Also follow at TalkBomb all over the place to stay up to date with what we've put out there out in the world. And get into the Book Club Shmook Club Facebook group.
Yes.
Search for it in Facebook. Join in. Post your thoughts in there. We can start up a good conversation because I really, we really kind of crapped on this book.
Yeah, because it was crap.
Yeah, all right, sure.
It's terrible.
But more than anything, we just hope that you guys had a good time.
Yes.
So if you did, please do consider going to patreon.com/talkbomb to help support the show with a monthly donation to keep this thing running.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
I'm very excited to be back in business.
Me too.
I have greatly missed this show.
Me too.
And so we will see you next week for an off topic. We'll see you in 2 weeks for Meddling Kids. But until that time comes. Good.
Oh boy.
Good talk, gang.
Meeting adjourned.
I guess that's the meeting.
I guess it's over.
I guess it's adjourned then. Cool. And that's the end of the episode.
All right. That's it.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, you should consider going to our website, www.talkbomb.com, where we have archived every show we've ever done. You can also visit our bonus show store, where we sell exclusive episodes of our podcasts for 50 cents a piece, not to mention our merchandise. If you enjoy Talk Bomb, the best thing you can do is help us spread the word. Tweet, share, review. We would greatly appreciate anything you can do to spread the word. Please also consider following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where we're at TalkBomb. Following us online is the best way to keep up to date with our productions. More than anything, we just hope you enjoyed the show. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you at TalkBomb.com.